Welcome to Break the Box, a podcast at the intersection of faith, entrepreneurship, and creativity. I'm your host, Jake Starkey. The goal of this podcast is to tell the story of other Christian entrepreneurs and creatives and encourage you to break out of whatever box is holding you back. If you're a first-time listener, I encourage you to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, Season 2 is coming soon, and we're excited to bring more of these to you on a regular basis. On this episode of Break the Box, we talked with Brady Shearer from Pro Church Tools about launching a product and how his company has grown from a studio apartment to a newly renovated 3,000 square foot facility. Here's my conversation with Brady Shearer. Glad you could join us. Real quick, can you give people a background on what Pro Church Tools is?
Yeah, so my name is Brady Shearer. I'm the CEO of a company called Pro Church Tools, prochurchtools.com. We're a completely online company housed in Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada. And basically the entire mission of our company is to help churches seize the 167 hours beyond their Sunday service, meaning there's 168 hours in a week, and churches are pouring so much of their time, money, and resources into this 1 hour per week service. But the way that the internet and communication has changed, we like to say that we're living through the biggest communication shift in the last 500 years. We've got access to our community, our congregation, and everything in between for 167 hours beyond our Sunday mornings. And so our entire company is dedicated to seizing those 167 hours.
Very cool. And how long have y'all been in business? I know you started out kind of as a one-man shop and then grew.
Yeah, so as a official incorporated company, it's been 3 years, 4 years if you include the sole proprietorship, one-man band, like you mentioned, the year before that. And so, 4 years. We just moved into a new office, our first official prime office space. It's 3,000 square feet. Built it from scratch. Designer came in and everything. Before that, we were in my garage, 400 square feet, 6 of us, a little cramped. Had to expand. And before that, it was my spare bedroom. Before that, it was my studio apartment. So humble beginnings.
Very nice. So that was one of the questions I had for you was, you've been in business for, like you said, 3 years. Sorry. What led you to believe that it was the right time to create a quote unquote official office place? Like you said, you're an online company. Most of your business is online, working with companies and churches. What kind of made you feel this was the time to move into a physical location?
Well, we were at the point where we had outgrown our existing space. So like I said, we were in my renovated garage, a separate building on the property, 400 square feet, and there were 6 of us in there, each of us packed into a corner, or some of us didn't even get a corner, Jake. It was that bad because there were only 4 corners. And so 2 of us, we had to share a corner. And so we were kind of realizing, like, the way we want our company to go, kind of the goal that we have for it, we're going to need a team of, 8 to 15, somewhere in there, and we're going to need a new space. And so we talked about keeping our existing space and having people go remote. But a big part of the company, and the reason I started the company from the beginning, was to have this quote unquote lifestyle business, which is an internet term that gets thrown around a lot. Basically, you want your business to exist to support the lifestyle you want to live. And namely, that has been a huge part of who we hire. So we have 8 full-time employees right now in the office, and every single one of them I went to high school with or was a very close friend with before hiring. And so basically the lifestyle part of that area of the business is, we hang out with our friends all day and make fun stuff. And so we wanted to have a better space to do that. We also do a ton of filming. A huge part of our company is video. And so we wanted to have a creative space where we could film our videos, not just in our studio. We wanted to have, great natural light, great decor, great backdrops, and just great kind of spaces to film in that were open. And then the other part of it was kind of just serendipitous. This place is about 1.5 kilometers from my house, 1 mile from my house, and it was extremely affordable. Turns out the owners of it actually went to my church. They gave us a good rate, and we were able to build it from scratch exactly how we liked it. It was this brand new industrial office park that opened, and it was just given like the design award for architecture the year before. Niagara isn't like a super beautiful, startup-y place, and yet a mile from my house was this perfect spot. And so a part of it was just like, seems like the right time, so let's take the leap. Wasn't cheap, cost a lot of money. We're very thrilled with how it turned out, but there was this interesting change, Jake. We moved in basically the new year, January 1st. So right around Christmas time, you got family coming in. They came by the space and they were like, man, Brady, like, you and Pro Church Tools, you've made it now. And I was like, no, we just have more expenses than we did before. Like, yeah, exactly. We were just as profitable when we were in our dank little, the garage, but it just didn't seem that way. And so it's funny how a really nice space, kind of gives off the allure that you've made it or you've accomplished something. But really, it's just another expense. And so, if you don't need an office space, maybe don't go for it. We can afford it and it doesn't really hurt us. It's a minor expense now, but we had put, a couple $100K into building it, and we'd had that saved up, and that was something that we wanted to spend on. But, that's how much it costs. Like, not free, not cheap.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'm sure that there were conversations about whether or not it was the right time. And I agree with what you're saying, that having the backdrops, and like you said, you spit out a lot of video. I see it always coming up on Facebook or Twitter and everywhere else. And you've kind of had your own studio besides the actual studio space that I've seen in your videos. I also see that you kind of just walk out into that open space and you're recording videos and you're utilizing the whole facility as best you can.
Yeah. And like, we love the space, and it's awesome, like you said. But I mean, a lot of it is even like, I'm a 26-year-old CEO, and I feel like CEO is the right term because there's 10 of us now, and we're multiple 7 figures when it comes to revenue. Like, I don't like the term CEO, but saying founder or, like director, just, all the titles are stupid, Jake. They're all stupid. No good title works. Point being is that I'm just making this up as I go. Like, right. I'm just trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. And a lot of it comes down to just playing the guessing game. And this one worked out. Other decisions I've made haven't worked out. We've gone with an agency, or we've built a site, or we've launched a product, and, it didn't really resonate the way I expected it to. And so this one worked out well, but at the end of the day, like, that serendipitous part of it plays a huge role, where you just kind of go with your gut and you kind of see what happens.
Yeah. Speaking of products that you've launched, you just recently, I guess in the past couple of months now, launched Nucleus, which is, I'm going to let you explain it, but it's a website avenue. Can you tell us a little bit about what it is?
Yeah. So the way I see Nucleus is it's the new breed of church website builder. Church websites have obviously been something that most churches know they've needed for a while, and you've had a lot of different opportunities to build one. And we think that as we move into 2017, we think that instead of having just a static website where, information is shown and it looks nice, you need to have a nucleus, a smart website, a dynamic website where everything is integrated. Churches have a unique need for their online presence, because not only do they have to have like the information side of a website and even the media side of a website when it comes to sermons and videos and podcasts, but then there's like the actual commitment dynamic part of the website, signing up for events, giving, registering for ministries, integrating and interacting with the calendar and attending live things. So it makes churches unique in the way that they're structured. And so we want to create a website builder that allows churches to have all of this in one, not like to feel like they need an app and a website and a bulletin, and another website, like just have it all in one place. And so that's what Nucleus is all about. We launched our minimum viable product, our MVP, and at the end of April, we had a little more than 1,000 churches sign up, and we closed after that. And we've been building with them for the last 2 months, and we're going to build with them until later 2017, and then reopen as the full version, and then we'll be open permanently. So we're kind of in a quote unquote paid beta right now.
Very cool. And one of the things I liked that I saw when you launched was the idea that there's almost 2 facades of the website, in that like you said, churches have a very dynamic need. And so you have the visitor aspect, someone who's just showing up and needs information about where to go for service. And then you have someone who is a member, who is tithing, who is giving. How do you get that information out there? And so what kind of made you realize that there was a need for the kind of split decision?
Well, there's so many different types of churches and sizes of churches, right, Jake? And so you've got big churches that are exceptional when it comes to communication. And so for them, it kind of makes sense to have 2 separate platforms to send people. You can kind of have your main platform that is used as your new visitor, hey, what's up? You're brand new. And then you could also have your internal. It's kind of your internal and external operations. Then there are other churches where it just makes sense to house it all in one. And that's kind of the future of Nucleus and to where we're building. The goal has been to create this new breed of church website builders from the beginning. And so whether you want to use it as 2 different websites, you want to use it as one, that's kind of like where we're headed. But the idea is basically to have this single landing spot, however you want to do it, for every next step and every important thing in your church. The way that we see churches doing communication right now is that instead of consolidating into a single really quality platform, what they do is they segment their platforms into a variety of things, because it's much easier to add than it is to subtract, right? And so that's why churches have an app, a website, a bulletin. They got phone numbers you can call, people that you can talk to. You can text this number, fill out the card in the seat back in front of you, go to the lobby and talk to this person. And then it's like, there are a lot of different options because they're trying to make things convenient. But the problem is that you go to one of them and you figure, oh, I can't do this one here. I have to go download the app for that. Or wait, I can't do the app with that one. I've got to go to the website for this. And when you're working with a bunch of platforms that lack that kind of holistic approach and aren't built the way that they should be to solve every church's communication need, that's when none of them really end up working. You know, it sucks to be a part of a church where you go to the website and you won't find what you need. And so then you got to figure out, who do I talk to? And then you think, this is just too hard. I'm not going to bother. And that's where kind of the stagnant and the lack of participation and kind of the spectator unfortunateness of churches that we're beginning to see. It's like people just aren't as involved. They're coming less, which is just part of the cultural shift, but then they're also involved less. And a lot of this can be fixed with communication. A lot of it is a part of the culture shift that you can't work too much against. And that's why we're all about helping churches seize the 167 hours instead of trying to be like, come to us, come to us, come to us. But like, look, what if we just got them where they already are? But a big part of that is streamlined and efficient communications. Instead of continuing to add new things and this and this and this, if you can consolidate into a single platform that's doing what it's meant to do, you can get rid of all those other things, which means you're saving money, you're saving time because your staff isn't trying to maintain 3 to 8 different channels all the time. And for the end user, for your congregation, for your new visitors, for potential new visitors, it's so much clearer and easier for them as well, which means you're making good first impressions. And once those first impressions are done, you're allowing people to continually use your platform.
Hey, I wanted to take a quick moment and tell you a little bit about Battle Cry Revival Marketing, the producer of this podcast. We believe that when businesses have quality marketing, it gives business owners the freedom to focus on what they do best. We design websites, produce videos, and create marketing materials to help our clients grow their business. Find out more at battlecryrevival.com. Now back to the show.
The MVP, the minimum viable product. What are some of the things that you learned from the launch of Nucleus that you're looking at and going, okay, perhaps I would have done this a little bit differently. Perhaps, like you said, you have a whole group of churches who are already signed up. What do you see as lessons learned?
Well, I think that one thing that I've kind of been telling myself again and again is that it's okay to launch something and then be embarrassed by it a month later. And this is a big part of creativity. It's like you think you've made something amazing and then you look back at it 30 days or 90 days later and you're like, no one should ever look or engage with this piece of art because it is ultimately trash. And so it's okay to launch something and then realize how much you need to build upon it. This is the first foray of us into software. It's a whole different beast. We've done training, we've done client services, we've done resources. We've never done software, and software is a beast. I thought that I had thought of everything, and then 1,000 churches signed up and were like, here are the 8 billion holes in your software. And I was like, well, great. Because now I know what I truly need to make it great, and we can double down and build out to that point. But I did not expect this. And so that's a huge kind of interesting side angle of software that I hadn't expected because it was, again, new to me. But I think that the way that we also did the finances of this was, so Nucleus cost about $100,000 to build. And now we have about 1,000 churches that are paying each month. And now what that does is that gives us more capital to spend another $100,000-$300,000 to build it into the mature platform that we want it to be.
Right.
And this is alternatively to taking capital from somebody, taking investors, giving a piece of the product, giving a piece of the pie to someone else. So one, we get 100% control of the platform, which is awesome for us. And then for our users, we answer to them rather than having to answer to a board or an investor or a group of investors that are saying, look, we need to make this as profitable as we can, as soon as we can. Instead of that, we can just build out exactly what our users are asking for and build the platform that they want, which is what we're trying to do.
Yeah. And I like the fact that you got a huge segment of clients and churches, and then you closed it. You basically said, nope, we're going to take these and we're going to build off of it. And that allows you to concentrate and iterate in a way that I think too many people might have launched a product and said, we're just going to keep going. We'll get 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000. And then at a certain point, you're not catching up. And by closing the round, if you will, I think that you did a smart thing and you can concentrate, because probably some of the issues or anything that you ran into with one church, another church's experience as well. But you don't have to deal with the customer service avenue of times 5,000, times 10,000, and you can concentrate on the I want to say small group, but 1,000 churches is not necessarily small. But
well, and it's interesting you bring that up, because I did not plan to close down Nucleus, but after the first couple of days of having so many users, we had, 500 users in the first 24 hours. We realized, oh, maybe we should do that, because this platform isn't nearly as mature as we thought it was. And so we kind of pivoted, if you will, on the fly to compensate for what I had not foreseen ahead of time. And we've done this before when it comes to opening and closing. It works great for product launches because you have kind of the scarcity psychological trigger built into it. But this was truly this is not ready for the world. One of the great things about our company is our company isn't built on any product. We're built on our audience, what we call Pro Church Nation. From the beginning of our company, as you've seen, we just release a ton of content. We give 90% of what we do away for free. And what this has done is it's positioned us and me as an individual, as an authority in our space, where people trust us and trust me, what we have to say. And so we had 1,000 churches join us and join Nucleus who have been following us for a long time. And they love us, love what we do, and we love them. And so they've been very gracious with us as we built out this platform and had these bugs and had this lack of feature set that we didn't think was super important, but now we realize that it is. And so what's great about that is that they've given us this runway to build what we need to build. If we had a bunch of users running through funnels or signing up kind of cold out of the blue, they wouldn't be as gracious with us because there's no equity that we've already, given to them. But when you give so much as a company, first and foremost, when you need to cash in on that equity, you're able to. And so these people are like, yeah, we're going to keep paying. And, maybe we're not using Nucleus yet, or maybe we are, but it's limited, or maybe we're using it fully, but we know that it's going to be better. But we're going to keep paying because we know that you're going to build something amazing because we trust you. And I cannot understate how important I cannot overstate rather how important that has been.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that, kind of just watching it, I go to church. I don't work for a church anymore. And seeing the launch of Nucleus and kind of seeing the conversation around it was very interesting. It was very inspiring because it seemed as if you kind of took a step back and you just kind of looked and wanted to see what was happening. I didn't see a lot of, when people had questions, there were other people responding to them that may or may not have anything to do with Pro Church tools other than they followed you for a long time and they have that equity in you, if that makes sense. Your willingness to kind of give and give and give is paid off because you were no longer having to be the only person out there. You had people answering questions for you. Did you mean to step back?
Well, there were basically 3 channels of support that were happening because the church communication space is such a tightly knit group. There's a lot of communication and forums and comments going back and forth. So, there's a bunch of Facebook groups that people are part of. I do not run these Facebook groups, but because I'm a big space in the church communications arena, a lot of the times people can just contact me directly through there. The amount of times that someone will be like, hey, Brady, I have a question in a group that I do not own. It's someone else's group, but I'm active enough in there that it's a way to get in touch. So we had 3 people full-time on support throughout the entire launch. But if you weren't contacting support through the website and you were just posting it on Facebook somewhere, maybe we missed it, or maybe I didn't have the capacity to jump right in there because I wasn't being tagged and it's not something that I own, for instance. And so all of our support that goes through the website is responded to. I think we have an average of a 20-minute response, but if you're not contacting us through that, we might not be able to track it down. And then there was a lot of conversation that wasn't support conversation. It was just hey, have you checked out Nucleus? What do you think? And, I don't want to jump in and be like, it's awesome, trust me, because that's not my place to say. And so, but again, it's kind of like that old quote or that quote, dig your well before you're thirsty. Right. So obviously from the outside, it's man, it would be great to launch a product and have everyone sign up for it because they love you so much. Just it'd be great to go to the gym and have the perfect body that you've always wanted. Yeah. But that takes years and years of effort. And we've been releasing free content for 36 months before Nucleus launched. So here's the strategy, which is incredibly simple, but not easy at all. Release free content 2 times a week for 36 months. And then if you're good at it, you'll have enough equity to launch a product. That's one surefire way. I guarantee you it'll work. Here's another surefire success tip in life, Jake. If you cut calories and go to the gym 4 times a week, your body will look better.
Exactly.
It's simple. Doesn't make it easy.
Exactly. Yes, very much so. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time. This is going to sound hilarious. How can people find out more about you?
ProChurchTools.com is our main home base where everything happens. I'd love to connect on social as well. Instagram is where I'm spending a ton of my time, at Brady Shearer, SHEARER, at Brady Shearer. Hit me up in the DM on Instagram. It's always fun to hit up people on the direct messages. We get a lot of convos on there. So at Brady Shearer on Twitter and Instagram, or our home base, ProChurchTools.com.
Sure. And lastly, do you have any books you kind of recommend? What has helped you grow as an entrepreneur, as a creative?
The biggest one for scaling our company was the E-Myth Revisited. That's a pretty big one that a lot of people may be familiar with. I remember like in my 1-bedroom studio apartment in college, 14th floor, newly married, sitting in our IKEA bed and reading this book on my iPad and realizing, I'm not going to be able to do what I want to do alone. And that was kind of my first venture into hiring people. And so I hired someone remotely, and then I hired them part-time, and then I hired them full-time, and then 2 full-time. And now we're at 8 full-time with like 8 different contractors and remote people. And it all started with that book, which really helped me simplify and be like, here's what you're doing that only you can do. Here's what others can do that you can outsource to make available more time for you to do the most important things.
Yeah, man, I feel like I need to buy stock in that book. Almost every guest I've had on has said that book, and I'm reading it now. I feel like, 10 interviews in, having people mention it probably be a good idea if I read it too.
Well, now I feel like I should give another book because I'm just saying what everyone else is saying, Jake.
Well, if you have any more, but it is amazing. It's fairly consistent how much people really have used that book as an inspiration for them in their business.
Well, here's a book that probably no one will have heard of. I just want to make sure I get the right name. I think it's called Early to Rise. Yeah, it's called The Early to Rise Experience by Andy Traub. And it's a Kindle book. It's about learning to get up early in 30 days. When I first started the business, I was full-time in school, newly married, working a job, and my wife was working 2 jobs, and I was serving at my church. And the only time I had to build the business was from 5 to 8 in the morning. And waking up at 5 seemed impossible. So I went through this Early to Rise experience, and it was this 30-day challenge of getting up early at 5. Now I get up at 5 still 4 years later, and it's not that difficult, but it all started with that book. So Early to Rise Experience by Andy Traub, Traub. Very, very obscure book. I doubt anyone said that, Jake.
You're right. No one has said that one yet.
Nailed it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it.
It's been great being here, Jake. Thanks for the invite.
Thanks for tuning in. Break the Box is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to help us out, a review would be greatly appreciated and is honestly the best way to help the podcast be heard by others. This podcast is produced by Battle Cry Revival Marketing and hosted by Jake Starkey. For show notes, visit battlecryrevival.com/podcast.